All right, this week on The Big Show, Charles Kirkland and I will discuss everything going on in film and entertainment, and we'll review the new films Palm Springs, Greyhound, and The Old Guard, all on episode 407 of The Big Show, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, the home edition, as I like to keep calling it, since we are here. I don't know how long. All I know is I spoke with the powers that be at DC Radio, and I think I shared this with you, Charles. I ain't going back up in there no time soon. So we here, bruh. We doing what we do.
I go where the money leads me.
Hey, man, I know that's right. I was actually in the city yesterday because I had a doctor's appointment in D.C. right down the street from the station. And, man, that was the most cars I've seen on the street since February. I mean, it was crazy. I was like, is everybody back to work in D.C.? It was like a typical Friday afternoon in the city, man. It was crazy yesterday.
We got traffic jams and things going on. I'm like, where'd all these? I thought we were still on lockdown. I guess phase 3 means we can have traffic again.
Man, I saw automobile accidents yesterday. People with their tops down, folks just out there getting it. This, I call this time of year Dragonfly summer, man. Off one of my favorite Michael Frank's albums. Deep in July, you in the heat of summer, man. It's like every day is 89, 90 degrees. That DC humidity, if you're watching us from somewhere else, DC in July and August is a very humid place to be. Yeah. Very humid here. And this is my 35th year in the district. Charles, you're a native Washingtonian, so, this is what we do.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we've been delighted with some mild summers in comparison to what it could have been. So I'm not complaining. I'm just not a summer guy. I'm a winter dude. I like cold weather. Well,
unfortunately, living in the East Coast, man, you get, I would say, about 7 months of really 7 to maybe 8 months, depending on the year. And then we get about 4 months where it's really hot and intense, man. But don't worry, if you like cold weather, I'm trying to enjoy this warm weather as long as possible, because once September hits, man, they talking about the second wave of the C-19, and man, cold and flu season and mixed in with a pandemic. That's sexy times, brother.
You can't be drinking on air, man. What are you doing?
First of all, I don't drink. This, sir, is juice. So,
are you not putting the glass to your lips? That's called drinking.
It is called drinking, man, but it's being done in a smooth way. Like how Sammy Davis Jr. back in the day, hey, babe. Or Dean Martin. I mean, come on, the Rat Pack drink.
I was about to say, we just gone into the Rat Pack
hey, man.
Club show.
I told you this is the home edition, baby. I mean, so we do what we do, man. But enough of that. We talked about at the top that there are 3 movies in theaters this weekend. This is almost like, Charles, in July now. This is what we normally would be doing. So Tom Hanks's new film that he not only stars in, but he wrote the screenplay, Greyhound. Palm Springs, which stars SNL alums Andy Samberg, and I think her name is pronounced Kristen Milotti, who played the mother on, what was the name of the show? How I Met Your Mother,
right,
on CBS. So she played played a mother on the show. It was actually really, really good. Yeah. You didn't watch it.
I did watch How I Met Your Mother. It's a great show.
Yeah, so she played on that. So she stars along with Sandberg in that film. And then finally, Charlize Theron and the amazing Kiki Lane from If Beale Street Can Talk headlined The Old Guard. And I had been waiting for this movie for a couple of weeks. I wanted to talk about this one. I remember seeing the trailer, and I was like, man, if a film can win an award for a trailer, The Old Guard is the one. So Gina Prince Bythewood, this I think is Love and Basketball, Secret Life of Bees, Beyond the Lights, and now this, and then of course with Shots Fired. So I think this is probably, maybe I'm missing one, but I know this is at least her 4th project that I could think, because Wilson Morales and Wilson, who's not going to be on the show because he's dealing with some other stuff today, We talked about this early in the week, man, and I've been teasing, and I wrote a post on my Facebook page that I've had the occasion to interview Gina Prince Bythewood a couple of times. You know, once for Beyond the Lights, and once I think for might have been Shots Fired or something. But I used to always tease her about, man, Tyler Perry is cranking out movies every year. Like, why we got to keep waiting 4 or 5 years between movies? But
yeah, right.
but I will say, and we're gonna really go into it a little later on in the show, that I am usually very pleased with the end result of Gina Prince Bythewood projects, and I really want to sit down and break this one down today.
I know you didn't compare her to Tyler Perry. I mean, I'm because it's truly the quality versus quantity story right there. I would just I just let Gina do her thing.
I was not comparing the quality; it was the quantity. There's certain directors that can churn movies out. Spike Lee is another one who, at the beginning of his career, I think the first from 1986 to 1992, he did 5. I think the only year he missed might have been 87 because he did She's Gotta Have It in 1986. Do the Right Thing. And I'm sorry, School Days in 1988. Do the Right Thing in 89. Jungle Fever in 90. Or was it Mo Better Blues in 90. Jungle Fever in 91 and Malcolm X in 92. Right. So he put out 5 films the first 6 years that he was a director. And so Spike Lee, man, had it going on. And this was back in the days before he was married, before he had children, before he was teaching at NYU. His whole life was churning these movies out. So you can see what happened as Spike aged and evolved and more responsibilities came. Suddenly he had to have writing partners. he had, I mean, I'm not being funny. It's just the reality of the game. I mean, you think about somebody like an Ava DuVernay right now who churns out a lot of projects, between Queen Sugar and the documentary work she does, also as well as the movies she does. On Queen Sugar, she's the executive producer, but they've got a showrunner, writers, so she's not writing and producing every episode. These documentaries where she does these, there's a team behind her. One guy, the days of, the Oscar shows and early Spike Lee's, them days are gone, brother. You can't have there's not a one-man show in Hollywood in the game anymore, man. Even Tyler Perry. Now, Tyler Perry, I would say, is probably the closest that we have because, I think he got into controversy. Was it last year, Charles, when we did the show about him? Or maybe it was that earlier this year when he put up an IG post about, here are all the scripts I got. Say it again?
That was this year, just this year.
Yeah, I do all the writing. I mean, Tyler Perry is a dinosaur, man. There ain't too many people working like that anymore, man. It's just like, I got responsibilities. I got families. I got other interests, man. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, it takes work for us to do this show. I can't one-man it between doing this and the Black Reel Awards and the Lakefront Film Festival. I have a team. One man can't get all this stuff done, man. So, thank God for Charles Kirkland, who's sitting here, who literally was engineering and editing shows and shit. I'm just being real, man. I'm like, man, nah, man, it's hard. It's hard being a one-man operation, man.
Well, I'm glad to be able to come to your rescue, Mr. Lounge Singer.
Hey, man. Hey, it's not alcohol, people. One more plug. I'm drinking something that around my house, the joke is, since I don't drink alcohol and everybody else here does, that all the juice that I buy, if you put something in it, you can still drink the same juice and it would look exactly the same. But I always just find it funny. I'm like, man, you could put some V in here, or you can put some T in here, or you can put something in here. If you drink, you know what V's and T's are, man. So having said all that, man, Charles is like, when are we gonna start talking about this entertainment, man? Let's talk about what's going on in the game this week. We'll start first with something you sent me that I had already had an opportunity to look at, that Halle Berry was cast to play a transgendered man. And of course, we are living in what I call unprecedented times, that there are not too many things that you can get by with right now, because somebody's going to see them in social media and you're going to have to be held accountable. So there were members, of course, of the transgender community who was like, hey, we can't find a transgender person. It's got to be Halle Berry. Halle Berry felt the heat. And within a couple of days, she was like, I'm out. But Charles, go ahead, man.
I think the problem really wasn't that it was Halle Berry playing the role, because I think she could have done it. She's an actress. She's very good in what she does. But I think that she had the whole transgender issue confused, and she kept calling the person a woman when it's a transgender man. And so they said, oh, you don't get it. You're not down with the cause. So we can't allow you to take.
Somebody said you're not down with the cause, yo. Now people forget that what was the film called? The one her and Tom Hanks did. Something Atlas.
Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas. Now remember in Cloud Atlas when they were playing multiple different characters over centuries. Wasn't Halle Berry, didn't she play a male in that?
Yes, she did. But see, that's a different thing, playing a man versus playing a transgender man.
Right. No, I got you, man. And trust me, as Dave Chappelle goes, here comes the deep water. I'm not going into deep water, man. I'm just saying that I'm a journalist, man. So I look at and try to report on what's going on. And I feel I'm not getting into the politics of why Barry did it. I'm just reporting that the heat got intense. And as you said, whether the pressure that came from that community, whether she didn't really understand what the role took or understood the dynamics behind what she had to play, needless to say, she's not playing that role right now. So, no big deal. Halle Berry has a movie. She's making her directorial debut in a film that's supposed to debut at TIFF this year. I assume that we will see it. We are now running into a situation, Charles, just to make a slight pivot on this Halle Berry story. We're running into a situation now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it when it's time to review films, that we now have films. You remember earlier during the beginning of the pandemic when, we were sitting at home and it was all these Amazon and Netflix films, Disney Plus movies that were coming out that played well as streaming films. We talked about the High Note, like, High Note's cute, it's great for streaming. I wouldn't put it in the theaters. Now we're running into a situation that the longer this goes on, they're going to be movies that should be theatrical releases that are going straight to streaming, that you can tell in Greyhound, which I'll talk a little bit about later, is one of those films. Greyhound is a film clearly that needs to be in a theater, not streaming at home, or at least I should say not streaming at home the first time you see it. That movie is made for the big screen.
And Tom Hanks blasted the release company blasted Apple TV for putting it on the streaming, because he said it really was doing this disservice to his movie, because the sound quality at a home theater is nothing like what you would get in a theater. The size, the magnitude of the screen conveys differently for a movie of his magnitude, I guess, or quality.
Oh, you're right.
So he was legitimately upset that it did become a streaming film, that he really wanted it to be released in the theaters, and I suppose the time just wasn't possible for it to unless they're going to push it off till next year, it has to play. So, they got the rights, they could do with it what they wanted to. They put it on the streaming service.
Well, I think, man, again, this is the conversation we've been having for the last month or so about Tenet and Christopher Nolan's insistence that they want these movies to play in theaters. Well, I mean, I'm trying to take the humor out of it and just kind of report on it. Sean Edwards was on our show last week, and we talked about this. And I've been saying it privately, I've been saying it publicly, that we as film critics totally understand and get the fact that if a studio invests between $100 to $200 million to make a movie, this is not charity, right? you want to get your money back, and these movies are made for a global audience. Gone are the days that it's just about the 37% of film goers that live in North America and live in Canada. They're making these movies for the Asian market, the European market, the African market. These movies are made for worldwide distribution. And from what I understand, Charles, and I could be wrong because you're reading the same stuff I'm reading, all these theater markets aren't open around the world yet, and we know North America is not. So a lot of studios did the smart thing early and literally pushed movies back 6 to 12 months back, right? Then you had the Mulans and the Wonder Woman 1984 and Tenet, who were insistent, man, we gonna open our movie. And I'm like, you have the right now to put your movie in the theater. And if you were smart, any studio was smart. What I think the strategy should be, Charles, is that if you really want to open Tenet that bad, you find all the drive-in theaters that are in North America and Canada, and let's say you're able to cobble together, I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out. Maybe you can cobble together 1,000 drive-in theaters. You come up with a certain pricing structure. You put those things on the big screen, and maybe in a month, it goes to a streaming service, but you have it as an exclusive and drive-in for a month. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking that you're going to have to come up with some fresh ideas to adapt to the situation that we're in right now. The old model is simply not going to work because without a vaccine, there's not a lot of public confidence right now in people. I'm talking to film critics around the country who are like, man, I'm not comfortable being in a movie theater, man. The first time somebody cough, I'm getting up. And I'm like, that's a legitimate concern. I mean, you've watched Contagion, one cough and some what do you call it, droplets?
I don't know what you want to call it, but it's all flying.
Let's say hypothetically, here's another one. What if they say we mandate masks in the theater, and then there's always that one person like you and I have experience at work every day where we're able. I mean, am I lying? Am I making this up? I can put a mask on my face, and I'm not saying this as like I'm better than you or Charles and I are better than you. I'm just saying by virtue of what we're doing, I can wear a mask for 7-8 hours straight on my face. I've grown accustomed to doing it, but everybody's not in that place. So it's a very interesting sort of a situation. And without, I'm not going to make the show political, but without a federal mandate and federal guidance and instructions on how we as a country should progress. You have situations where we're in Maryland, and Maryland is a state that Governor Hogan, our Governor Larry Hogan, has mandated masks. So you can't come into any public space without a mask or they're going to be showing you the door. Let's say the movie has to play in a state down south somewhere. I'm not naming any of them, but they don't have mask mandates. How does your numbers reflect from like New York to New Jersey to Florida to Georgia to Texas? It's crazy, to California. And you've also got a situation now where there's a spike in some of these, in Arizona, California, Texas, Florida are spiking.
Spiking up again. Yeah.
So how you so it's like the sports leagues. I just read a piece this morning in Huffington Post where they was like, man, sports leagues, they're not ready yet for sports in this country. And I feel the same. If we're not ready for sports, we're definitely not ready for movies, because sports, at least for the most part, outside of, I think, football, baseball are outside. Hockey and basketball are usually played indoors. Movies are traditionally 98% indoors, because drive-ins, for the most part, have gone away. So anything that's indoor is very, very hazardous. So, which takes me back to my original point of the Tenets, Mulan, and Wonder Woman 1984. You either going to have to bite the bullet and literally sit on these movies for another year, or you're going to go out there and you're going to have an amazing economic loss, which is going to have somebody lose their job. Because if you at Warner Brothers put Tenet out right now, Charles, I mean, say something, man. It's not just me.
I have been a big proponent of the drive-in theory, and that there's a drive-in theater right in Baltimore that I frequent, and they just reopened. And you see all these things about Walmart doing their drive-ins in their parking lots, and drive-in is a legitimate idea. However, you can't generate the same amount of revenue at. I don't care if you get 1,000 drive-ins. You still can't generate the same amount of revenue that you would if you had put it into 1,000 movie screens. And so and the theaters have even less reason to open, because even if you go buy the ticket to go see a movie, the revenue's not going to the theater. You got to buy concessions, and if you're wearing a mask, how can you eat popcorn, drink soda, get some candy? Those things.
Are you talking about in a theater or at a drive-through?
In a theater.
Oh, in a theater, yeah, man. Bruh, it's
have even less incentive to open, because they just can't get to the point where it's gonna be profitable for them. So the movies are in a bad shape right now, because even if Nolan wants to release Tenet on August 12th, there's no place to release it to. I mean, he may say, hey, I want to put my movie out, but AMC is like, we're not open. Cinemark, no, not us. Where are you going to play it? So,
man, I think in retrospect, from day one, I saw that we were going to be in for a long haul, because history has shown us that a century ago, when this happened with the Spanish flu, it took literally 3 years for this country to get through it, because if you study the history, Woodrow Wilson, I'm not going to say Donald Trump is Woodrow Wilson, but Woodrow Wilson kind of poo-pooed the Spanish flu. I mean, he did. I mean, all the stuff. Watch this. I am not your authority. All you do the same thing I did, which is go and do some research. He did not embrace the Spanish flu, and you had all of these spikes. You had, sometimes they would do a good job with it, and then all of a sudden it would, rear itself back up. The country didn't get out of that until December of 1920, from January of 1918. And we're in a similar situation here in March. I think for the most part, 2021, where we are right now, I mean, think about it. You've got some companies that are really surging, trying to come up with different vaccines. So I think last time I heard there were 17 to 18 companies that were out there doing their thing, trying to come up with a vaccine. And some of these vaccines, are going to work. Some of them may not work. Maybe there'll be multiple vaccines. You also have a public who's highly suspicious that I'm not taking that vaccine. They probably put the tracking system in that vaccine. So or we'll have a situation, Charles, much like with certain things like the flu and the cold, HIV, AIDS, cancer. It might be one of those things, man, that we just have to live with if there's not a vaccine. But if you have to live with it, you've got to figure out a way in order for us to get the country moving again. And when I say get the country moving, I'm not saying stupidly send kids to school without a plan. I'm not saying stupidly we've got to send people back to work without a plan. You've got to come up with a plan, and then everybody across the country has to uniformly follow a plan. And that, I think, for the entertainment industry, the hospitality industry, for professional sports, and so many other things, and the privileges that we enjoy, quote unquote, as Americans, that's how we're going to be able to get those things back. Because again, think about it. We're in the middle of July right now. People, as a rule, like to go and hang out and vacation. You live here in the DC or the DMV, there are concerts. I miss my Wolf Trap this year. I miss Liganor, going up to the winery and hanging out. I miss being able to go to the park. I miss going to a restaurant. I miss going to a baseball game. I would be down in Nationals Park watching my Mets beat up on your Nats.
Wait.
I like football season when my Giants are manhandling whatever y'all gonna call that new football team.
Not a new football team. It's just a new name.
A new name. But my point is, man, the Kennedy Center, there's so much stuff that we do typically as not just here in DMV, but as Americans, things that we enjoy doing that have been taken from us because we can't get people across the country to understand. And do I have one around? I have one over there. I had a mask I was going to put on that, just put a mask on, man. It's not that hard.
The Kennedy Center, like I said before when we talked about Hamilton last week, I was supposed to be seeing the Hamilton at the Kennedy Center in a week, but and the Kennedy Center just revamped their whole area to have this wonderful outside area where people could come and do things. And I mean, we really were not prepared for this.
Man, the Kennedy Center, literally within the last year, what was the name of that thing they just built? Was it called Reach?
Yes.
A huge multi-million-dollar kind of add-on addition to the Kennedy Center. If you've never been in DC and gone to the Kennedy Center, it is a very special place. I'm usually there. I see Alvin Ailey every year. There are other plays that I go to during the year and other shows and productions. I can honestly say that if you would have told me a year ago, if you'd have told me in January, hey, Charles, I was in LA. Remember, we went to the Critics' Choice Awards. Right. And, we had spent like a couple of months, bouncing around at LA with all these Netflix projects that we were watching. If you'd have told me then that 6 months from now that we would literally be grounded and can't do anything, I'd have been like, come on, Charles. Come on, man. But, man, I'm telling you, what a difference 6 months makes, man. What a difference.
It's incredible. It's literally the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And like you said, you talked about the Spanish flu. How many years ago was that? Decades ago?
That was a century ago. That was 1918.
Yeah, a whole century ago. And here we are repeating history because we've forgotten about it. So, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
One final note on this, and then I'm moving on, is that while we're huh?
How did we get all the way here from Halle Berry?
I know, that's what I was going to say, man. What I was going to say, while we're at work sometimes, Charles and I both do the same thing, which I'm not going to say what we're doing, but we both work a job. And Charles, sometimes I'll stick in earbuds while I'm working. And from time to time, and I don't stick these in, but I'm seeing earbuds. And I have Netflix on my phone. So yesterday I said, let me start listening because there's something very interesting. And I don't know if you've ever done this before. I've done this several times where there are movies that I love that you listen to them like it's an audio book. So you put your phone in your pocket and you turn on the volume and you listen to it. So I did it with Malcolm X one day. I was working and did 3 hours of listening to Malcolm X. And by virtue that I knew the film so well, I could visually in my head see everything that was going on because I knew the film well. So yesterday I started on what has to be one of my 5 favorite shows. I'm not going to call it the top 5 show of all time. It's one of my 5 favorite shows. I started binging again, The West Wing. And what I love about The West Wing is that I think about President Jed Bartlett. I think about Chief of Staff Leo McGarry and Josh and the whole team that of this world of Aaron Sorkin, John Wells, and Thomas Schlamme designed and built. And in a time right now where we have so much political chaos right now, it is so cool to think that once upon a time there was a show along with the Obama presidency that literally showed us, along with the Kennedy presidency and some aspects of the Clinton administration, that showed us what the country should run like when you have idealistic people who kind of think about everyone as opposed to a certain segment of people. So The West Wing, along with The Wire, I can't even tell you what the other 3 shows in my top 5 would be. But if you got The Wire and you got The West Wing, you can leave me on an island with 7 seasons of The West Wing. You can leave me on an island with 5 seasons of The Wire. I'll be fine. I'll be fine with watching those shows because this will be my 3rd time watching The West Wing. I've seen it twice, including, as I tell the story, The very first episode I ever saw of The West Wing was the series finale, which was called Tomorrow. And then I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Let me go and rewatch this from the beginning. So I was like, oh, okay. So I was watching that yesterday.
Sounds like next week we're going to have to do our top 5 TV series.
Well, I mean, I think this top 5 thing is hard because, there's series that mean something to me culturally as a Black man. Good Times, The Jeffersons, those mean something to me. MASH I watch, but I'm not like a big MASHite. I mean, it was okay. I'm trying to think. The Cosby Show. I know how people feel about Dr. Cosby, but that's a landmark show to me. It really is. It's a landmark show. A Different World, I think, is another good show, but it's not on the level of the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show was just something really special. And then there's smaller shows that are significant, culturally significant, like Frank's Place from 1990, I'll Fly Away, Regina Taylor and Sam Waterston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Look, you talk to me, man. I go deep on this TV thing, man. I watch some shows.
But I'll Fly Away is new for me.
Oh yeah, I'll Fly Away was Regina Taylor, and it was the story of a domestic who worked for this liberal white family in the South. And the coolest thing I thought about the show was like the final episode, they aged her forward to like present day. And she had become an author, and she was giving a lecture at a school, and she was like, I wrote a book about my experiences, and it's called I'll Fly Away. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. That was pretty good. So Regina Taylor, yeah, I loved her in that role, man. So, yeah, we definitely probably do need to do our favorite 5, because it's not going to be, the 5 all time, because, stuff like Dick Van Dyke's Show is, I think, just landmark television. Room 222, which is a show a lot of people are not familiar with, but you can go on YouTube and watch it. Show that came out in 1969 that dealt with an integrated school in Los Angeles. I think it was Walt Whitman High. Even though Karen Valentine and I forget Michael Constantine were the stars of the show, the show was done through the point of view of this Black teacher and his love interest, who's also a teacher at the school, Denise Nicholas, and I forget the brother's name, who's a star. But Room 222, that cool theme, dun, 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 dun. This is back in the day when all television shows had themes. We grew up in the 70s. You had Beretta and Kojak and Three's Company and Charlie's Angel. Everything had a theme. Good Times, Maude. I mean, think about it. All in Family. Everything had a theme when we were kids in the 70s, man. Well, I'm sorry. When I was a kid, because you were a kid in the 80s.
You would run around humming the theme song while you're outside playing, pretending that you were in one of the shows.
And knock on my door. Come and knock on my door. I'm saying these were fun times, man. That's why I said, no disrespect to young people now who look at us and go, y'all old. I'm like, okay, well, at some point there's going to be something from your time that you're going to hold on to that is nostalgic to you. So, yeah, but we could definitely have a conversation about a top 5 favorite shows, because it would be interesting to see where stuff like Mad Men, Sopranos, Game of Thrones, all these modern kind of culture phenomenons, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad. I've never seen, let me take that back. I have seen episodes of Breaking Bad, but by the time Breaking Bad was really peaking as a show, I think it was season 4. And I was like, man, I'm not starting at the beginning to try to catch up to watch Breaking Bad, because, I'm not doing that. So
I'm the same way. I've watched the first season of Breaking Bad because somebody asked me to do it. Right. And that was like just last year. And I watched the first season. I was like, Then they were like, oh, well, you got to watch season 2. That's where it really picks up. I'm like, oh, I just started with season 2.
If you don't hook me in season 1, you short. When I watch The Sopranos, I hate to say this, but the first season of Sopranos is what got me hooked. I don't think the next 5 or 6 seasons ever matched season 1 of The Sopranos. Him sitting at the office with with his psychiatrist, and all of the stuff that David Chase did. I mean, I thought that was a great show. The West Wing season 1 is absolutely fantastic. The Wire season 1 was fantastic. So all of these shows that come out the gate just pow. You can't tell somebody, hey man, the second year it's gonna get real good. And what about the first year?
I mean, I had to sit through the dreck of the first year to get. And nowadays, you don't get a second season. If you don't hook them in the first season, you're done. It's donezo for you.
Yeah, man. So, but let's talk about we got some time, but there's the other big story this week, and this one shouldn't even take long. But of course, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith were on the red table yesterday. Jada Pinkett Smith, I'm not sure if you guys, people at home know what the red table is. Charles, I don't know if you're a red table guy.
I know what it is. I've never watched it, but
I've watched the show, and she brought herself to the red table because apparently there's been all of this social media buzz about a relationship that she had years ago. And when I say years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago with, I think the guy's name is August, and it's spelled Alsina, Alsina, I think his name is. And, the controversy was, he had talked about Will gave him permission to date Jada, and they kind of cleared the air yesterday and explained that they were at a point where they were separated and almost thinking about divorce. And he was doing his thing, she was doing her thing. And I looked at this story and all of this social media commenting that went on, and to me, this was real simple. This is a lesson I learned a long time ago, Charles. Whatever happens in a marriage between a man and a woman is their thing. It has nothing to do with anybody outside of their home, their bedroom. I never forget when I was young, I had a roommate one time, and he and I sat down and talked, and he broke it down to me, and I said, you know what, you're right. Whatever agreements a couple makes between them, it doesn't have to look good to people on the outside. It has to feel right for you, because marriage or relationships are not a one-size-fits-all, right? And I've got some stories that are very colorful, which I can't tell on radio, about stuff that I've heard over years of what couples are doing. It wouldn't be stuff I'm doing, but I'm like, if that works for you, that works for you. And for Will and Jada, who have now been together for 25 years and are now have transitioned to what they call themselves life partners. Hey, man, it works for them. And for me, I don't think the fact that you had to even come and do a show to explain it to the public, it ain't nobody's business. You do you. Whatever works for you. Charles has never explained his relationship to me. I don't explain mine to you.
I have a little bit of a different thought on it, though, because, I mean, in show business, Hollywood, it's a different animal. Right. And you got so many eyes on you and so much, if your reputation is soiled, then that's the end of your career. So they have a little bit of other stakes in the matter than just being a married couple. And I agree with you to some extent. What happens in a marriage is for the marriage. But when you're living that life, and that's why a lot of Hollywood marriages don't last, because they're inside that fishbowl day in and day out with the paparazzi, TMZ, and everyone else who are always have their eyes fixed upon you. So there's times when it is necessary, and I applaud them for sitting through in there and being transparent like that, because there's another couple out there that needs to hear something along those lines about, hey, this is how we worked it out, and there's constructive there's a constructive nature to being transparent like that. Right. For other couples. They've done this. It's 24 years. Is it 24 years?
25 now.
25? Wow, they've been married as long as I have. But anyway, other couples are looking to you to get some help, and I don't have a problem with what they're doing. I think it's very positive. Again, this is somebody out there needs to hear that. And right. So I'm all for it. Share if that's how you feel, share. And because again, they're in that cycle of Hollywood. If they don't say something, how rumors can kill. So you got to address it.
No, I got you, man. Well, like I said, man, I almost felt terribly uncomfortable watching it because it sounded like there was a conversation that you would have privately, and they did it for the effect of an audience, which ain't none of your business, man. I mean, and that's honestly goodness truth. I think people are under this illusion that since you, as you said earlier, that you have superstar status. I mean, it must be horrible, and that's why a film like Notting Hill is a movie that I watch over and over, and I love it so much, man. Because if you have never seen Notting Hill, it's a story of a small bookshop owner in London who meets a A-list actress. So it would be like if I and Halle Berry got together, right? And the thing that I loved about that film, which is really cool, is the way that Anna Scott, played by Julia Roberts, interacts with him, interacts with his friends, but her life is messy. She's got a high-profile boyfriend played by Alec Baldwin. She's jet setting, going back and forth. She's embroiled in scandal because they find her at his house, scantily dressed. There's also later on, she comes back to seek him out after early modeling photos of her get out, and she needs a shoulder to lean on. It's very messy, but at the end, that famous line, "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her." Oh my God, man, it just kills me. But I love the fact that you get a peek inside of what somebody who would be an average person would have to deal with to be in a life with somebody like that. And that's what I feel a lot of times about what people think about actors, that you have these liberties since they're at the supermarket on these magazines and you read these stories, but they're people, man. They are people who, just like you, are dealing with stuff. They got bills and depressions and insecurities and all the other things, relational hangups. So yeah, man. So that's what I would leave that there, man. Unless you got anything else. I think your point is well taken, that it is used sometimes for couples who may be in a similar place and can see how Will and Jada were able to kind of resolve certain issues that helped them out. And I think their life and their testimony, as we would say, from a spiritual standpoint, can actually help somebody. So I got you on that one.
Yep.
All right, brother. So now it is time for us, because Charles, normally, if we was in the studio, I'd be like, "Charles, man, give me the tease, man, so we so we can do this." No, I'm just saying, this week, I forget how we always do it, but it's something about, because I haven't done it in like 5 months now, but this next segment, movie reviews, is brought to you by the FilmGordon.com. Experience life through the eyes of a true film addict, me. Go and check out the FilmGordon.com.
Because on the website it was me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, check out live through the eyes of a true film addict, him. So you can read these reviews. Well, actually, you can't. So you get them now here on the big show on Zoom. So that's the easiest way for you to digest this. So we got 3 movies in theaters this week, and we will have limited interaction from Charles. He knows how we do this. So first up is a movie that, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but basically we're going to break it down. And the film is called Palm Springs. And it's a sci-fi romantic comedy directed by Max Babakow in his directorial debut, and stars Andy Samberg, Kristen Milotti, Peter Gallagher, and J.K. Simmons, and follows 2 strangers who meet at a Palm Spring wedding only to get stuck in a time loop. Now, generally, if we're going to edit this in, my man Shane, drop a clip in of Palm Springs. All right, there's no clip. So this movie, immediately when you read the tagline, it reminds me of a film that I love, which is called Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray and Andie MacDowell. And in this movie, it's similar. We see Andy Samberg get up. He's in a relationship with a woman who really is not into him. He's hanging at the pool. There's the famous promo shot where he's on a pizza float. He's just chilling. It's just another day in Palm Springs. And then he meets he goes to a wedding and meets the sister of the groom, the sister of the groom, played by Kristen Milotti, and the two of them embark on an adventure. He tries to evade some craziness. You have to watch the movie and see it, because I'm not even going to tell you. But he tries to invade some craziness, goes into a cave, and the next thing you know, he wakes up in his bed the following day, only to discover that the woman that he was with the previous night followed him into the cave, and she's stuck in a time loop too. It's a very cute story that is probably best on a streaming system. If this play, I'm just being real. If it was in a theater, I would have lost patience with Palm Springs. But if I could watch it at home, sure. Andy Samberg is to me has limited comedic appeal, right? You know, it's not like he's not like Martin Lawrence or even somebody like a Bill Burr that I can watch over and over, or even a Hannibal Buress. You know, he has a limited amount of appeal, and he maximizes that appeal in this film. Kristen Milotti, who we talked earlier from How I Met Your Mother, you know, she has a very animated face, man, that looks kind of like a Disney princess. You know, she's got the long face, she's got the big almond eyes, and, you know, the expression she can make, where she can go from kind of calm in the scene to manic, like, you know, from back and forth. I thought she was good. I thought the chemistry between them was solid. Not the greatest film of all time by any stretch of the imagination, but on a lazy Dragonfly summer, it's a pretty good film to watch, man. I mean, I would give it a C+. I thought it was cute. I mean, you know, I just thought it was a cute film. Charles?
So we're gonna talk about the Corona curve.
The Corona curve.
I would have called this movie Bathroom Break, because there were a lot of times
Bathroom break.
That's one thing about streaming, is that there are times when things happen in these movies and you're like, oh really? And you can stop and come back and do it over again. So yeah, this is a great streaming movie. This is a great sit at home and watch. If I were in the theater, I'd have thrown popcorn or something. I'd have been upset.
Charles, it sounds like you liked it less than I did, man.
I probably did. It might have made a C- at the best.
Ooh, man, he gangster, man. All right, I'm feeling you, man. All right, so let's see. C+ for me, C- on Palm Springs. Up next, it's Greyhound, a war film directed by Aaron Schneider and starring and screenplay written by Tom Hanks. The film is based on the 1955 novel The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forrester, and also stars Stephen Graham, Rob Morgan, and Elizabeth Shue, and follows a U.S. Navy commander of a multinational escort group defending a merchant ship convoy under attack by submarines in the early 1940s during the Battle of the Atlantic, months after the U.S. officially entered World War II. Now, as I said at the top, this movie clearly should have been in the big screen. This is clearly not a movie you want to watch the first time on a streaming service. It's just not. It reminded me, think about Dunkirk. Think about, you know, these larger than life. Think even about Saving Private Ryan. What would have happened if you would have watched Saving Private Ryan on Hulu before you saw it in the theater? It takes away the grand scope of a story. The Dirty Dozen. I mean, you can just name a bunch of films in this genre that play best on the big screen, and this film is one of them. And despite Tom Hanks's 2 Oscars, and despite the fact that he wrote the screenplay, this film's title tells you all you need to know about this story, which to me didn't grab me until maybe halfway through, because I've seen enough of these movies. We never find anything out about the character that Hanks plays, and I'm trying to remember what his name in the screenplay is. Krause, Commander Ernest Krause. We don't find out a lot about him. We do see him and his love interest a couple of months before this all goes down. He gets his first command, and this is his command. But we don't really learn anything about him, because the movie, this 90-minute film, is spent with him escorting and trying to evade and keep ships afloat from an attack from the German U-boats, where the action I thought was really, really good. We don't learn, as I said, we don't learn anything about this guy. And the movie is just like the dog. You know how the Greyhound is kind of tight and to the point? This movie and the action in it, it's kind of runs like the Greyhound. But, you know, this guy's a mystery to me, man. And this would be a movie. We had a conversation last week about movies you watch once and you're like, you ain't never got to worry about me watching that again. Greyhound to me felt like that kind of movie. I would give Greyhound a C. This movie, man, I mean, I like it, but I'm not gonna remember it. I didn't learn anything about the story. It didn't pique my interest to the point where I'm like, I got to go and check out who this guy is. It didn't do any of that for me. I mean, the only reason to watch this movie is because Tom Hanks stars in it and he wrote it. Outside of that, Charles, what else is there about Greyhound that we should be excited about?
Nothing.
Wow.
Again, this is another time when I'm like less impressed than you were. But I thought the action scenes were adequate at best. There was no suspense. There was no drama. Everything was just like bang, bang, bang. And then, you know, there was nothing to grab onto as you're watching this film. I felt no fear. I felt no exhilaration. I felt nothing. Because again, I think it's because we had absolutely no idea who he was, why he was, and what he was doing. All we knew is there were a bunch of ships going across the water and they were getting attacked. Right. And I mean, there was no connection. There's no emotional connection anywhere in this film, except for maybe the porter that serves him the food every day.
Yeah, Rob Morgan.
Rob Morgan's role. And that's the only time I felt a slight twinge of anything in the film. But other than that, Tom Hanks can talk about all the sound and all the action and everything that he wanted to. There was no emotion in this film, right. And it just didn't play well for me at all. You talk about Saving Private Ryan, 1917, all these wonderful war films. This is just like the bottom of the ocean of war films for me. It just didn't do it for me at all. I gave it a D+. I was not happy with Greyhound at all. I wanted it to be so much more, and it wasn't.
All right, which leads me, I saved the best for last, or at least for me, because knowing the pattern we got, Charles will like this less than me, is The Old Guard. And of course, this is an action fantasy film directed by the amazing Gina Prince Bythewood, written by Greg Rucka, based on his comic book of the same name. And this film stars Charlize Theron, Kiki Layne, Matthias Schoenaerts, as well as Chiwetel Ejiofor. And it tells the story of a group of what we call immortal soldiers, man, led by Andromache of Sinitha, otherwise known as Andy, Charlize Theron, who leads this group. And they have now found another member of this immortal group. So that is that. And I wish we had a clip we can put right here. Drop the clip in there, Charles. I mean, not Charles. Shane, bam. All right.
There it is. Boom.
This film right here, you know, I love the trailer going in. And I was expecting for there to be a letdown. Like I would go in and watch this movie and be like, man, this movie's not doing anything. You know, you had me when you say history, right? So you talk about immortal. I like history. The fact that not only did they put this story together, but they lay it out in a way that I thought from the comic book is quite feasible. You know, there are 4 individuals who are immortal soldiers, right? They've lived various points. So all of them are at the same age. Of course, Charlize Theron's character, Andy, they never actually tell you how old she is, even though I think in the comics she's like 700 years old. But in the story, in this film, we know she's at least 1,000 years old because they trace back to like Troy and the Crusades and some other stuff. The youngest of the 4 is the guy they found 200 years ago at the Battle of 1812. So you just do the math. I think the fact that you've got these assassins or these soldiers that are so old, what I loved about what they did is that they incorporate fighting styles, and it had fought so long that like your little 2020 fighting or 2019, whenever they made the movie, none of that stuff is gonna matter to somebody who's been killing people for centuries. Not centuries. 1,000 years is a millennia, right?
Right, millennia.
Yeah, they've been killing people for millennia, man. So you know your little rudimentary fighting is not gonna work. So I think the fact that the way they introduced the characters, Kiki Lane, of course, is a Marine who in Afghanistan has an unfortunate, though not more than unfortunate, a fatal accident. And then they all discover her, and then we discovered that there was another member of their group who has been living underwater for 500 years, encased in a cage. I just thought everything about this film worked well. I thought the one thing that I would say about this film, which reminded me a lot of John Wick, was the low bullet count. John Wick doesn't waste a lot of bullets in his movies. John Wick is headshot. He might shoot you a couple times in the chest so you can raise your head up, and then he goes headshot. They don't even do that in the old guard. This is headshot, 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 headshot. So it was the action I thought worked well. The story scenes and the acting and the chemistry, I thought that worked well. I thought Chiwetel Ejiofor, who plays a guy who is tracking them, and as you later on find out, is doing more than tracking them. He's been tracking them for another reason. It was a sort of movie, Charles, that when it was over, I immediately said to myself, when is part 2? When do we get the sequel to this? And that does not happen a lot when I watch movies. I was into this movie. I got immersed in the story, and I want to see more. And ironically, I think this would have worked better as a television show than as a movie. This would have been a great TV show. If that had been the end of season 1, and we could add season 2, oh my God, that would have been great. But go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, man, this one really got me. This is a graphic novel come to life. The way that all the plot line, the story is excellent. The action is incredible. The cinematography is beautiful. Andromache the Scythian is thousands of years ago. I love the line when he says, "Oh, she's forgotten more ways to kill than armies know how nowadays." I was like, and she is bad. I love this film. This was on the top of my list for and again, sequel. When can we have it? I'm ready. Let's go,
man. Take Jason Bourne, John Wick. I don't know, James Bond. You wrap all of them together, you're not getting what you got out of Charlize Theron in this film, because as you said, man, somebody and it's funny because even in the film, Charles, as you talked about, they have flashback scenes where we see her as a warrior fighting over centuries. Man, this woman is just beastie. And then there's a scene where Kiki Lane gets on the plane with her.
In the airport.
And wants to fight her, and which I thought was funny because the whole time you never, as Charlize Theron, there's never any, as Dave Chappelle once said, there was fear in the plane. Not my fear. I'm Andy. So she beats her up and she goes, "Yeah, you're pretty good.
You're pretty good, but that's enough."
Yeah. Let me break your arm. I love, like, you run away, she just goes in the back of the head. So the regenerative abilities and that part of the story, I'm giving this movie, wait for it, Charles, an A. I love the old guard. Matter of fact, I think we've watched this movie like 3 times since it's come on Netflix, and I might watch it again this afternoon. I love this film. And it, along with The Five Bloods, are what what Netflix is doing with Gina Prince Bythewood, with Spike Lee. Earlier last year, I know a lot of people didn't like The Irishman, and but think about when you take really good directors, you give them the freedom that Netflix gives, and you allow these guys to do what they naturally can do. Gina Prince Bythewood is a really good filmmaker who I told you earlier, we went through her filmography. She has never made a bad film to me. Secret Life of Bees, I thought, worked well. Beyond the Lights works really well. Love and Basketball is a classic. She's an amazing, amazing director. And this film, Charles, what did you give it, man? I gave it an A. What are you giving it?
I gave it an A. I gave it an A as well. Like you said, it's not the most clever script in the world, but it works really well. I think Gina does a way with relationships that she just has a way of making them seem genuine when she fleshes them out really well in all of her films, and I think she does that with all the character, all the old guard and the new guard. I think the relationship, she just, I don't know how she does it. She's just a master at that.
All right, man. Well, let us get up out of here, man. I mean, that's enough for today's show. But as we tell you guys in closing every week, please see something at the movies that's good, or see something good at the movies. We're giving you several options, and then you also got Hamilton if you haven't checked it out yet. We'll be back next week, man, with episode 408, and we'll have more stuff for you. You guys enjoy your summer. Charles, you and Pepe Le Pew, you do what you do. Until next week. We are out, man. Great job, my friend.
Peace.
Peace.